I remember the exact moment my phone buzzed. It was 3:17 a.m. My C-section incision burned as I shifted in bed to reach for it. My newborn daughter Emma had just fallen asleep after 2 hours of crying. My pajamas were spotted with breast milk, and I could feel the warm wetness of blood on my pad. That's when I saw his name light up the screen. Mark Davidson, CEO. "Janine, I know it's not the best time," his message read, "but we need that Apex presentation by tomorrow. The whole deal hinges on it." I stared at the screen, my vision blurry from exhaustion. The Apex account. The one we'd been chasing for months. The one worth millions. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I had planned this maternity leave for months. My doctor had been clear. 6 weeks minimum recovery from your C-section. Before I could respond, another message. "No one understands the project like you do. Just this once, please." I looked at my sleeping baby, then back at the phone. Against everything my body was telling me, I typed back, "I'll try." "Just this once," I whispered to myself at 4 a.m., wincing as I sat up in bed. Emma was nestled against my chest in her wrap carrier, the only position she would sleep in. My husband James snored softly beside us, exhausted from his own long shifts at the hospital. I balanced my laptop awkwardly, trying not to wake Emma. The glow of the screen felt like needles in my tired eyes. My incision throbbed with each small movement. The painkillers had worn off hours ago, but I was afraid to take more while breastfeeding. My fingers moved slowly across the keyboard. Before my leave, I could type 90 words a minute. Now each keystroke felt like pushing through mud. Slides blurred together as I tried to make sense of data I'd normally understand instantly. Emma stirred, her tiny face scrunching up. I froze, hoping she wouldn't wake. Just 5 more slides. Just 5 more. When she started crying, I jiggled her gently with one arm while continuing to type with the other. My body felt hollow, like I was operating from somewhere outside myself. But the work continued. It had to. "Just this once," I repeated as dawn broke through the window. I hit send at 6:23 a.m., just as Emma began rooting for her next feeding. The presentation wasn't perfect, but it hit all the key points. I'd managed to package the company's strengths in a way that directly addressed Apex's needs. My breasts ached, my incision burned, and my eyelids felt like sandpaper, but at least it was done. Mark's response came within minutes. "You nailed it, Janine. This is the best work I've seen in months." The praise sent a warm rush through my exhaustion. Despite everything, I still craved that validation. I still wanted to be good at my job. I smiled as I shifted Emma to my breast. Then another message pinged. Just one small tweak. "Can you beef up the ROI section? Maybe add a comparison chart?" Nothing major. My smile faded. The small tweak would take at least another hour. Emma was cluster feeding, which meant she'd be attached to me nonstop. I'd have to work with one hand again. "When do you need it?" I typed. "ASAP. Meetings at 2 p.m. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and opened the laptop again. What started as "just this once" quickly unraveled into a stream of never-ending requests. By day 10 of my maternity leave, Mark's messages had become part of my daily routine, as regular as Emma's feedings, but far less welcome. "Can you look over this proposal? Quick question about the Henderson account. Need your take on this email. Can you jump on a call while the team discusses Q3? Each time he called it consulting or just picking your brain. Each time he reminded me how valuable I was, how no one could match my insight. And each time I said yes, though the word tasted more bitter with every utterance. I worked during Emma's naps, during feedings, during the precious moments when I should have been sleeping myself. My husband James noticed the dark circles deepening under my eyes. "This isn't right," he said one night. "You're supposed to be recovering." "It's fine," I lied. "It's just temporary." But as my phone buzzed yet again, we both knew it wasn't temporary, and it certainly wasn't fine. 3 weeks after Emma's birth, I was finally able to walk to the bathroom without gripping the wall for support. My incision had stopped aching with every move, though it still pulled uncomfortably if I turned too quickly. That morning, for the first time, I'd managed to shower, dress, and feed Emma without crying from exhaustion. That's when Mark called. Not texted, called. That alone sent warning bells ringing. "Janine?" His voice boomed with fake cheer. "How's motherhood treating you?" Before I could answer, he continued, "Listen, the Apex presentation is tomorrow. The team's nervous. We really need you there to lead the pitch. I nearly dropped the phone. Mark, I'm barely 3 weeks postpartum. I'm not even cleared to drive. I'm not even walking normally. It's just a few hours, he pressed. We'll send a car. Honestly, Janine, this account could make our whole year. The room seemed to tilt as I realized what he was asking. He wanted me to leave my newborn, ignore my doctor's orders, and pretend that major abdominal surgery was just a minor inconvenience. I can't, I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. Mark's voice shifted, lower now, more serious. You know how important this is to everyone. I bounced Emma gently as she fussed against my shoulder. I understand that, but... The whole team has been covering for you, he interrupted. Working overtime, picking up your clients, everyone's stretched thin. The words hit like slaps. Covering for me? As if having a baby was an inconvenience I'd created to burden everyone else. I thought you cared about the company, he added when I didn't immediately respond. About your team. Hot tears pricked my eyes. Of course I cared. I'd given 5 years to this company. Missed holidays, worked weekends, delayed starting a family longer than I'd wanted to, all for this job. That's not fair, I managed to say. What's not fair is leaving us hanging when we need you most, he countered. After we hung up, I sat in the nursery rocker, Emma asleep in my arms, and cried silently. Was I being unreasonable? Was I letting everyone down? The guilt felt heavier than my baby. After an hour of rocking Emma and fighting in an internal battle, I called Mark back. My hands shook as I balanced the phone against my ear. I can't come in, I said firmly, then added before he could argue, but I have a compromise. You and Alicia can come to my house. I'll coach you both through the presentation. I'll help with any questions or objections Apex might raise. There was a long pause. I could almost see him weighing whether to push harder. Fine, he finally said, no attempt to hide his disappointment. We'll be there tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Mark, I added quickly, this is the last thing I can do until I'm back from leave. My doctor's concerned about my recovery. Another pause. Sure, Janine, whatever you say. The call ended without a thank you. I looked around our messy living room, burp cloths draped over the couch, a breast pump on the coffee table, diaper supplies scattered across the floor. I'd have to clean up, make myself presentable, prepare notes. James found me 15 minutes later, trying to vacuum one-handed while holding Emma. What are you doing? He asked, alarmed. My boss is coming tomorrow, I said, and burst into tears. They arrived exactly at 10 a.m. Mark in his crisp navy suit, and Alicia, the temp hired to cover my leave, looking nervous in a blouse and pencil skirt. I'd managed to shower and put on real clothes, but my hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and my body still felt foreign in my loose maternity dress. Nice place, Mark commented, glancing around without really seeing. His eyes didn't linger on the family photos or the nursery door. He didn't ask about Emma, sleeping in her bassinet beside me. No, how are you feeling? Or how's the baby? Just straight to business as he pulled out his laptop. Alicia smiled awkwardly, at least acknowledging Emma with a soft, "She's beautiful." I liked her immediately for that simple kindness. For the next hour, I walked them through the presentation, pointing out key selling points, anticipating questions, suggesting responses. Every few minutes, I shifted in my seat, trying to find a position that didn't pull at my incision. When Emma woke hungry, I nursed her, while continuing to explain strategy. Mark never once looked directly at her. He stared at his screen, impatient, as if my baby was an inconvenience to the meeting he had demanded. The coaching session dragged on. Emma grew fussy, overtired from the strange voices and disrupted schedule. I bounced her gently, trying to calm her while still addressing Mark's questions. So, if they ask about implementation timeline, he asked for the third time. Tell them 6 weeks, with milestones at weeks 2 and 4. I repeated, my patience wearing thin. Emma let out a sharp cry. I stood to walk her, wincing as I did. Mark checked his watch. We should probably run through the whole thing once more. Then, unbelievably, he added, You're sure you can't come in tomorrow? It would make a huge difference if you were there. Something inside me snapped. 2 weeks of pushing myself beyond my limits, of bleeding while working, of putting his demands before my healing body and newborn child. Are you serious? My voice trembled. Can't you see I'm in no shape to do this? Even if I wanted to, I can't. I had major surgery. I'm still bleeding. I barely sleep 2 hours at a time. I'm trying to keep a human alive while my body tries to recover. The room fell silent, except for Emma's cries. Mark stood without a word, gathering his things. Alicia looked mortified, mouthing, "I'm sorry," as they left without so much as a goodbye. After the confrontation, silence fell like a heavy curtain. No texts, no emails, no updates. Days passed. I tried to focus on Emma, on healing, on the beautiful newborn bubble I should have been enjoying all along. But anxiety gnawed at me. Had I ruined everything? Would there even be a job to return to? A week after the visit, I saw it online. A press release announcing Apex's partnership with our company, the deal I'd helped secure. The presentation I'd created while bleeding and sleep-deprived had won them the account. My phone remained silent. No acknowledgement of my contribution. No thank you. Not even an FYI. I stared at the announcement photo, Mark shaking hands with Apex's CEO, Alicia smiling in the background. Something cold settled in my stomach. I'd been erased. That night, I nursed Emma in the darkness of her nursery and admitted to myself what I'd been feeling. I wasn't just hurt by Mark's behavior. I was angry. And beneath that anger was something stronger, the realization that I deserved better than this. "We both do," I whispered to Emma, who gazed up at me with complete trust in her tiny face. 6 weeks flew by in a blur of midnight feedings, first smiles, and gradually healing body. The day before my scheduled return, I felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. I'd spent hours preparing, arranging childcare, pumping milk, finding clothes that fit my new body. "You don't have to go back there," James said as he watched me pack my breast pump. "I know," I replied, "but I won't let him chase me away." The next morning, I walked through the office doors, professional outfit carefully chosen to accommodate pumping, hairstyled for the first time in weeks. The familiar buzz of office life felt strangely foreign now. "Janine, welcome back." A few colleagues greeted me warmly, though I noticed others avoiding eye contact. I headed to my desk but stopped short. Alicia sat there, family photos arranged exactly where mine had been, computer open, looking very permanent. The receptionist winced when she saw my confusion. "Oh, no one told you? Your desk was reassigned." Before I could respond, my phone rang. Internal call. Mark's extension. "Come see me," was all he said. I walked slowly to Mark's office, passing colleagues who quickly looked away. Something was very wrong. My heart pounded as I knocked on his door. "Come in," he called. Mark sat behind his massive desk, not bothering to stand when I entered. No smile, no welcome back. Just a cold stare and a nod toward the chair across from him. "Have a seat." I remained standing. "What's going on, Mark? Why is Alicia at my desk?" He sighed, as if I was being difficult. "We've made some changes while you were away." Then he gestured to something beside me. A cardboard box sat on the credenza. I recognized my desk plant drooping over the edge, my framed certifications, my special ergonomic mouse. Someone had packed up my workspace. "What is this?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Mark folded his hands on the desk. "I think you know, Janine. Things haven't been working out." The room seemed to tilt. 6 years at this company. Awards for top performance. Nights and weekends sacrificed. And now this? "You're firing me," I stated, not a question. "Terminating your position," Mark corrected, sliding a letter across the desk. "Effective immediately." The paper swam before my eyes. Words like restructuring and no longer requires your services jumped out at me. On what grounds, I managed to ask, though I already knew. He shrugged, not even bothering with pretense. "We don't need you anymore. Alicia has handled everything quite well in your absence." The real message was clear. This was punishment. For setting boundaries. For not coming in while recovering from surgery. For putting my baby before the company. For refusing to be at his beck and call. "This is retaliation," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Mark's expression hardened. "You can call it whatever you want. The decision is final." I thought of Emma, of the daycare I'd just paid a deposit for, of our mortgage. Panic threatened to overwhelm me, but beneath it, something else was growing. Fury. Pure, clarifying fury. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," I said, grabbing the box. "Don't be dramatic, Janine," he called after me. "It's just business." In the privacy of my car, I finally looked through the box. My belongings had been carelessly tossed in, photo frames broken, plants dying, personal items mixed with office supplies. but something felt wrong. Things were missing. My personal journal, where I'd sometimes sketch ideas during lunch breaks, my backup flash drive, and the items that were there seemed disturbed. My desk calendar had pages torn out. Family photos looked like they'd been removed from frames then stuffed back in carelessly. Even my daughter's sonogram picture, which I'd kept in my drawer, was crumpled. Someone had gone through my things. Not just packed them, searched them, invaded them. Tears of rage burned my eyes. Not only had he fired me for having boundaries, but he'd also violated my privacy in the process. Had he been looking for something to justify the termination? Evidence of poor performance or misconduct? I took photos of everything with my phone, documenting the state of my belongings. Then I called the one person who could help. My college roommate Sarah, who happened to be an employment attorney. "Don't delete a single email," she instructed. "I'm coming over now." Sarah arrived at my house an hour later, legal pad in hand, face grim with focus. I sat at my kitchen table, Emma asleep in her swing beside me, as I detailed everything. The late-night work requests, the pressure to come in while recovering, the termination immediately upon my return. "He kept all the presentations I made while on leave," I explained. "Made me work while I was bleeding from surgery, then fired me the moment I was supposed to come back." Sarah's pen moved rapidly across her pad. "Did you save the texts? The emails?" I nodded. "Everything." Her eyes narrowed when I described the state of my personal belongings. "That's not just unprofessional, it's potentially illegal." She explained my rights: protection from retaliation for taking protected leave, the law regarding reasonable accommodations, my rights to my personal property. "You have a strong case, Janine," she said finally. "Very strong. He clearly fired you for taking maternity leave and for refusing to work during it. The emails alone prove that. What do I do now?" I asked, feeling both terrified and relieved. Sarah closed her notebook with a snap. "Now we fight back." The lawsuit paperwork felt heavy in my hands, pages of legal language describing what had happened to me. Plaintiff Janine Mitchell versus Cortex Solutions and Mark Davidson. Wrongful termination, pregnancy discrimination, retaliation. "Once we file this," Sarah warned, "there's no going back." "Are you sure?" I thought of my daughter, now smiling and cooing at 2 months old. What would I tell her when she was older? That I let someone bully me because I became a mother? That I allowed an employer to treat me as less valuable because I had a child? "I'm sure," I said firmly. "File it." 3 days later, a process server delivered the papers to Cortex offices. I imagined Mark's face when he was served. The surprise, the anger, perhaps even a flicker of fear. The company's response was silence. No calls, no settlement offers, no threats, just a deafening quiet that somehow felt more ominous than outright hostility. Sarah wasn't concerned. "They're regrouping," she explained, "figuring out how bad this looks." I nodded, trying to believe her. But at night, alone with my thoughts, I worried. Had I just destroyed my career? Would anyone hire me after this? The silence from the company spilled over into my personal life. Former coworkers I'd considered friends stopped responding to texts. My LinkedIn connection requests went unanswered. One colleague I ran into at the grocery store actually turned her cart around to avoid me. I'd become toxic by association. The woman who sued, the troublemaker. Online, I discovered Alicia had been officially promoted to my position. A company post congratulating her had dozens of likes from my former teammates. It stung more than I expected. "They're scared," James said when he found me crying over my phone. "They're afraid of losing their own jobs if they support you." He was right, but the knowledge didn't ease the loneliness. I'd lost not just my job, but my professional community. The isolation felt overwhelming some days. Yet slowly, I realized something. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. The need for validation that had driven me to work while bleeding, to push myself beyond reasonable limits, it was fading. I didn't need their likes or texts. I needed justice. And I was going to get it, even if I had to stand alone. Cortex legal response finally arrived, a cold, clinical denial of all wrongdoing. They claimed my termination was performance-based, that I had, voluntarily, offered to work during leave, that Mark had accommodated my needs by allowing me to work from home. The twisting of reality made me physically ill. They had rewritten history, turning Mark's exploitation into generosity, and my dedication into failure. "This is standard," Sarah assured me. "They're trying to create a narrative." But she was worried about something else. A claim that I had breached confidentiality by removing company materials after termination. It was a lie, but a strategic one, meant to put me on the defensive. "They're looking for anything to discredit you," Sarah warned. "Be prepared for them to get nasty." That night, I dreamed I was in court, trying to speak while Mark and the company lawyers talked over me. I woke up gasping, my heart racing. "I don't know if I can do this," I whispered to James in the darkness. "You already are," he reminded me, holding me close. "And you're not backing down now." Sarah called an emergency meeting at her office. "We need to shift our approach," she said, spreading documents across her desk. "They're trying to make this emotional, personal. We need to make it factual, medical." I nodded, understanding immediately. This wasn't about hurt feelings or unfair treatment anymore. This was about documented medical needs being ignored, about recovery from surgery being disrespected. Together, we gathered my medical records, the detailed surgical notes for my C-section, my follow-up appointments, my doctor's specific instructions for recovery. 6 weeks minimum before returning to work, no driving for 2 weeks, no lifting anything heavier than the baby. I created a timeline, matching Mark's requests against my physical state at the time. Day 3, still on pain medication, asked to review contracts. Day 7, still bleeding heavily, created entire presentation. Week 3, barely walking normally, pressured to come to office. We gathered my prescription records, showing the pain medication I was taking when Mark expected me to make critical business decisions. "This isn't about a boss being mean anymore," Sarah said, reviewing our evidence. "This is about medical necessity versus corporate demands, and we have the receipts." A text from an unknown number appeared on my phone. "Can we meet? Somewhere private, about your case." After consulting with Sarah, I agreed to a coffee shop meeting with her present. I was shocked to see Vanessa from HR slide into the booth across from us, looking nervously over her shoulder. "I can't be seen talking to you," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "But what happened to you was wrong." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were emails between Mark and HR, dated the day after my confrontation with him at my house. In them, Mark demanded information on termination procedures and asked about performance documentation requirements. Most damning was HR's response. "As discussed, termination immediately following maternity leave carries significant legal risk. We strongly advise against this action without documented performance issues predating the leave." Mark had replied simply, "Noted, proceeding anyway." "He had no formal approval to terminate you," Vanessa explained. "He bypassed protocols. I could lose my job for showing you this, but—" She trailed off. "But it wasn't right," I finished for her. She nodded, then slipped away as quietly as she'd come. The courtroom felt smaller than I'd imagined, more intimate somehow, which made it more intimidating. I sat beside Sarah, trying to appear calm, though my hands trembled beneath the table. Across the aisle, Mark sat with the company's legal team, his face a mask of professional concern. He wouldn't look at me. When my turn came to testify, I walked to the stand on legs that felt like water. The oath, the seating, the microphone adjustment, all passed in a blur. Then Sarah began her questions, guiding me through my story. I spoke clearly, factually, just as we'd practiced. No tears, no bitterness in my voice, just truth. He asked me to work while I was bleeding from surgery. I did. I only said no when I physically couldn't continue. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, watched intently as I detailed the timeline, the medical restrictions, the retaliation. During cross-examination, the company's lawyer tried to paint me as opportunistic, as someone looking for special treatment. But my medical records spoke louder than his insinuations. When I stepped down, I caught the judge's eye. She gave me the smallest nod, so subtle I might have imagined it. But in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The judge's ruling came faster than expected. She didn't just rule in my favor, she issued a blistering opinion that condemned Cortec and Mark specifically. "The court finds the defendant's actions particularly troubling," she wrote. "Exploiting a recovering mother, demanding work during protected leave, then retaliating when reasonable boundaries were established, represents a profound misunderstanding of both the law and basic human decency." She ordered my reinstatement with back pay, plus damages for emotional distress. The amount was substantial, nearly a year's salary. But more importantly, the case became public record. Local news picked it up. Legal blogs discussed it. My name became associated not with shame, but with standing up for working mothers everywhere. My phone, once silent from isolation, now buzzed constantly with messages from other women sharing similar stories. Some were fighting their own battles. Others were just grateful to know they weren't alone. "Your case will help protect others," Sarah told me as we celebrated the victory. That mattered more than any dollar amount ever could. The ripples spread quickly after the ruling. Apex, the client whose account I'd helped secure while on leave, requested an emergency meeting with Cortex board. An industry contact told me what happened. Apex's CEO, a woman with 3 children herself, had been horrified by the details of my case. "We don't partner with companies that exploit new mothers," she'd reportedly said. "It's against our corporate values." The loss was catastrophic. The very account that Mark had pressured me to work on, the one worth millions, the one I'd sacrificed my recovery for, was now walking away specifically because of how I'd been treated. Other clients began asking questions. Investors expressed concerns about leadership and culture. The company's stock took a hit. Board members demanded answers. All from one case. All from one woman who refused to be silenced. A company-wide email went out addressing recent events and promising a thorough review of policies regarding family leave. They never mentioned me by name, but everyone knew. The damage control had begun, but the damage was already done. I read the email with Emma sleeping on my chest and thought, this is how change happens. The email came from a former colleague, someone who'd kept in touch secretly during the lawsuit. A simple screenshot with no message, internal memo, subject leadership update. Effective immediately, Mark Davidson is no longer with Cortex Solutions. During this transition period, VP of Operations Diane Chen will assume his responsibilities. We thank Mark for his service and wish him well in future endeavors. No explanation. No farewell party. No glowing tribute to his years of service. Just a sterile paragraph announcing his exit, buried in a routine update. The same unceremonious dismissal he'd given me. I stared at it for a long time, searching for how I felt. Not joy exactly. Not vindication. Something quieter, more profound. Closure, perhaps. I didn't respond to the email, didn't share it with anyone except James and Sarah, didn't post cryptic messages about karma or justice. The truth was, Mark's departure didn't change what had happened to me. It didn't erase the isolation, the fear, the violation of trust. But it did signal something important. Consequences existed, even for those who thought themselves above them. I closed my laptop and went to check on Emma, sleeping peacefully in her crib, unaware that her very existence had started a chain reaction that brought down the man who thought motherhood made me disposable. 6 months later, I pushed Emma's stroller through the spring sunshine, heading to the park. She babbled happily, reaching for passing butterflies. Her face alight with the simple joy of existence. I hadn't returned to Cortex despite the court-ordered reinstatement. Instead, I'd taken the settlement money and started my own consulting business. Working remotely, setting my own hours, choosing clients who respected work-life boundaries. I was earning more than before, but more importantly, I was present for these precious moments with my daughter. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Cortex new head of HR, reaching out yet again. We would value your input on our revised family leave policies. I smiled but didn't open it. They'd been trying to consult with me for months, desperate to rehabilitate their image. But I had no interest in helping fix what they had broken. My silence was its own kind of power. A text followed from a former colleague who'd recently announced her pregnancy. Your case made a difference. They just announced 6 months paid parental leave for all employees. That made me pause. 6 months. Double the industry standard. Worth it? James had asked last night, watching me work late on a new client proposal while still making time to rock Emma. I'd thought about everything. The pain, the isolation, the fight, the change that followed. Yes, I'd said simply. Every bit of it. And in the warm spring air, watching my daughter's face turn to the sun, I knew it was true. I had found my power, not despite becoming a mother, but because of it. That was a peace no one could take away.